Hello, this is Rohini Rathore, and today's video is about creativity, which is the third of my 7 C's. So if you will remember, we already covered clarity and curiosity, and today's it's a turn for me to talk about creativity. Now, a number of times people have this misperception that creativity is being about, all about being right-brained, and, people who are very left-brained tend to be more logical and analytical. Almost as if, they are two mutually exclusive things, and that if you're somebody who's very left-brained, then you're not going to be very creative, and vice versa. Now, I want to say that this is such a load of nonsense because, first off, we all have both sides of those brains. So if it's not like, you're left-brained and you're right-brained. No, we have a left and a right brain, and no one comes into this world with just half a brain, although they may sometimes behave as if they only have half a brain. So what I want to say is that if somebody is using logic and analysis to do what they do best, then of course, that may be considered left brain, but it does not mean that there's no creativity involved in it. I think some of the most amazing creative things on this planet have been thanks to mathematicians, physicists, scientists who are typically not considered to be very right-brained. And at the same time, people who are, say, dancers, painters, musicians, there's no rule that they can't also be mathematicians, physicists, or brilliant scientists. So what I think today's message is to explore creativity in your life in whatever way works for you. And creativity doesn't have to actually be physically manifested in the form of, a painting, or like the beautiful ones you see in the back, or even, things that you perform on stage. That's not all creativity is about. So I really want to explore the idea of being creative in the way you think, in the way you act, and in the way you actually show up in the world. So it's about thinking outcomes and what it is you're really trying to achieve, and thereby sort of working backwards to think, how may I achieve it in a way that makes the most sense, uses my resources in the most judicious way, and also creates the best impact. So there's a story that has done the rounds, and I don't know if it's completely true, but it's a good story and I'm going to share it with you. It's to do with the space mission to the moon. So several decades ago, when America was putting, their first space mission to the moon, they had a challenge in that, they wanted people to write things down when they were there in space, but they realized that the usual biros, the ballpoint pens, wouldn't work because there was no gravity. And so they spent a lot of time and a lot of money, from what I hear, millions of dollars, in inventing a pen that would work even when there was no gravity. The Russians, on the other hand, achieved the very same outcome by simply using a pencil. So now that's creative thinking. That is thinking, well, what's the outcome I want? And rather than try and make a better pen, why don't I look around me and see what have I already got that I can use instead? Now, so many of today's problems can be solved in a similar, simple fashion. Look at what is the outcome you want to achieve. If we look at, without getting into politics, if we look at some of the change that's happening around the world with, politics changing the way it conducts itself, it emerges from people's protest for things that are not working for them. And so rather than, politicians thinking, well, what is it that people really, really want? And how can we give it to them in the most creative possible way, rather than, stick to what we always do and throw a lot of money at the problem. So, it can work in politics, it can work in business, it can work in your personal relationships and interactions, and just thinking about things in a different way. I also think that on an individual basis, very often the things that we loved, when we were, maybe when we were children, there were certain things that we actually loved doing. In my case, I love performing, I love to dance, I used to love to sing, and I even trained for a little while as a classical, Indian classical music singer. I don't do it anymore, but I still appreciate it, and I love listening to music. So my interests have subtly changed over time, and I find that when I take the time to just step out of what I do for a living, step out of my daily responsibilities and just dip my toe in, even if for a little while every day, or create some time during the week, I come away so much more refreshed. And it means that my right brain, which has been very busy doing whatever it's doing, gets a little bit of a break, and my left brain takes over. So it's all about balance. I think we all need to create this balance where we allow all bits of our brain to get a good workout and not just rely on one side of it and letting the other one completely sit idle for months on end. So that's my message on creativity. So it's about creative thinking, it's about creative action, it's about creative solutions, and they don't have to cost a lot of money, they don't even have to take a lot of time. It simply means you have to be willing to step back. In fact, it goes back to the previous two C's. If you get really clear on the outcome that you're trying to achieve, if you get really clear on what your resources are, what you can and can't do, and then you get curious and think, well, how can I achieve these results, with the things I already have? What has been looked at before? What's not been looked at? Can I find a different way, a better way to achieve the solution? And that's creativity. And that's what this world needs more than anything else today. For us all to get creative in our personal lives, in our professional lives, and in all our interactions with one another. So with that message, I'm going to leave you today. Get creative, get creating. And, as ever, if you have resonated with what I've said in this video, please do leave a comment, or let me know what you think. You can always get in touch with me by email or various social media, but also right here on YouTube. And sorry, today's video is a little bit shaky. I'm holding my phone in my hand, and it's never a good way to do the video, but here we go. I'm rushing a little bit. So thank you for watching, and I will be back again tomorrow with the next C, which is competence. Bye bye.